Strategy Simplified. Before we start today's interview with Ty Sheets, it's a really great conversation. I want to quickly tell you about the August Black Belt program. So you've probably heard us talk about Black Belt before. It's a structured case prep program that helps you break into consulting, right? It's really, really effective. Over 80% of Black Belts complete the program, land at least one offer. And the August cohort starts next Wednesday, August 7th. And the last time I checked, there were 11 spots left. And this cohort is selling out fast. So encourage you to check it out. Link in the show notes to join Black Belt. We've still got a couple of spots if you want to talk to Eden to make sure that Black Belt is the right program for you, or maybe there's another program that we offer that would be a better fit for your background, for your timeline, and for your goals. So check it out. Link in the show notes. Now let's get into this episode. Welcome back to Strategy Simplified, y'all. Glad to have you back on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Today's episode is going to be all about Strategy Sprint. Just really quickly, Sprint is a week-long virtual consulting project that allows you to add consulting experience to your resume and serve a real client, make a real difference. So it's great skills, experience, and impact. This episode specifically, we interview a previous Strategy Sprint client. So you'll get to hear from the CEO of a former client who spells out in detail exactly the impact that the Strategy Sprint team had on her business. So you'll hear how the team's recommendations have impacted her business, the changes she's made, the decisions she's made as a result of the team's work on her project. The next Strategy Sprint project is coming up soon. We run these about 4 times a year. So get your ticket link in the show notes to learn more and to join the project today. There's just a couple of spots left, and we'd love to have you join. All right, without further ado, let's get into this conversation with Rachelle.
Well, Rachelle, we're so excited to have you today to share a little bit about your recent Strategy Sprint experience. And just so y'all know, we did not do a pre-call on this, so this is completely raw. Rachelle is going to tell you the absolute God honest truth of the full Strategy Sprint experience. But I would just love for you to begin by sharing a little bit about who you are and your business and why Strategy Sprint was a compelling opportunity for you as an organization.
Sure. So I'm Rachelle McClintock. I'm the owner of McClintock Agency here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're a boutique admissions agency serving families with seniors applying to a slate of schools that's fairly large, that's competitive. A lot of our students apply to Southern schools and as well as elite universities, small liberal arts colleges in the Northeast. So kind of East Coast. And so that's what we've been in business for 7 years. This is our 8th season. And the reason that Strategy Sprint was compelling to me was Jenny Ray and I had connected through a mutual friend. She knows the best people. So again, if you want access to her, do it because she does know the best people and just great at networking. And so someone introduced us. And she said, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" And I thought, this is an interesting season in my business where we are. We just got some decisions to make, and at a strategic level, this would be great to get ideas about how to grow revenue and the direction to go. And so I said yes.
I love it. Let's talk about the problem that we decided on for you to solve for the business and how you shaped that problem and why that was the problem that you chose to look at. Can you just share a little bit about that problem with the organization?
Sure. So when I was thinking about this question, Jenny Ray asked me, if you don't have a specific problem, people are trained to just grow revenue, right? So that's a good problem to solve. How do we grow revenue? And so we sort of settled on the question of, do we stay in the admissions space or do we pivot to the writing space? Do we stay in our area locally or do regionally, or do we grow nationally? Where does the expansion happen? And so that was kind of the question that we raised kind of coming in to the week.
I think that was a really powerful hone in question that a lot of people were asking. And a lot of the questions that came out early from the team were, what are you open to? And so having that definition was super helpful for them. Now let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about meeting the team. What was it like for you to meet the team? We had the pre-call with you and then we had the Saturday call with the whole team where you shared a little bit about yourself and they had the opportunity to ask you questions. Just
Mm-hmm.
what were your first impressions? What did you notice about the team?
Well, let me start with that. I'll come back to I'll say, um, the first call where I felt real as a client, felt really informed about the process, what was expected of me, and what the team would provide, the teams who would be working on the project, what they would provide. So I felt very clear about the scope of work, which was awesome. Because as a busy business owner, I need to know the scope of the project. And so for me, I felt really clear on what we would be doing and what would be required of me in terms of time and meetings. And then as far as meeting the teams that were going to be, there was three teams for my strategy sprint. And as far as meeting them, I think while I was on like in the first 5 minutes, like I was getting pinged on my phone, people like connecting with me on LinkedIn. And it was just this moment of realizing people want to connect. This is an engaging group, super professional, energetic, and just generally like I got the sense, these teams were going to dig in and really think about my business and care about it for a week, which is a great feeling.
I love that. That's we never talked about that, and I think that's such a you're a very insightful person. I've known this about you since I first met you, but I think that's a really great example of your genius insight. Let's move on to talk a little bit about the end of the week. So, right during the week, there wasn't a ton for you to do. You had to respond to some questions, but it was largely a waiting game. So, between the first Saturday and the following Friday, what did you notice? How did you experience that final call? And
Mhm.
and just what was it like to walk into that without a lot of expectations? And what did you come away with?
Well, I wish I had the notebook in front of me here of the notes I took on that call, because I was writing furiously, like just trying to keep up. I was so glad they sent out a recording because it was a lot to process. Each team presented, I want to say it was 30 minutes, and then I had time to respond. Um, I'll say back up and say during the week, the teams they sent me questions. And I realized they were deeply insightful questions. So some of those things I had on hand, some of those things I needed to figure out. Some of those questions I never thought about. And so that was fun for me. And I thought, you know, the better I answer these questions, the more valuable this experience will be that day, where the teams are presenting something, because we'll all be in alignment, right? I'll be in alignment with each team about what they want to know, and they'll be able to deliver something in a strategic way. So I did really attend to the questions that were asked that week, and I enjoyed looking at them and thinking about them. It was just good for me as a business owner. As we came into the Friday, and I was furiously taking notes with each of the three um, the teams who approached the project. I think one of the things I noticed was they were they really dug into the initial question well. And their slides were super comprehensive, very clear, and like some of them sent them ahead of time, like a little preview. Super helpful. I would say if you're doing this, like to send the owner a little preview of where this like one presentation is going to go. It just gave me some context. So I was like, that's super professional. I loved that. And so anyway, I don't know if that answers. There's maybe another question in there that you would ask, but I'll let you keep
Totally.
going.
No, I mean, I think you're saying it, but did you feel like the time that they had and the amount of work that they did matched? Were you like, that's a reasonable week's worth of work, or that was a lot to get done in a week, or I wish they would have gone deeper? I'm just really curious
Yeah.
what your experience was like there.
I think they got a lot done in a week. I was impressed by how much they accomplished, and I imagine there was a lot of late nights, pulling things together and doing research on my competitors and regional trends. And I was able to ask a few questions, and I was like, regardless of what happens, I need answers to these three questions. And they did it. And that was really nice.
Do you want to work for a fast-growing M&A consulting and advisory firm? Then Palm Tree is the place to be. Palm Tree is a firm that's experienced incredible growth in recent years, even in the midst of the global economic slowdown, and hiring just keeps marching on. If you're currently an employee at a top accounting or advisory firm seeking to break into the M&A industry, or you're a student interested in learning about the M&A lifecycle, consider Palm Tree. Join the firm's upward trajectory and help shape the future of M&A advisory. If interested, learn more and apply on the firm's careers page, palmtreellc.com, or you'll find the link in this episode's show notes.
Well, the most important piece here is the reveal, which is the after. This is a couple of months. It's been about 2 months since we did the deliverables for this. And what did you put into practice? What have you already put into practice for your business? What decisions have you made that you haven't yet put into practice, but they're good anchor decisions? And are there any that are left still to be decided, or thoughts that came up in the process that you think will make a difference for you in the future?
So it took about a week for me to really, and I rewatched things, I looked at the slides. It took about a week and a couple conversations with trusted business owners like myself to really reflect on everything, because it was a lot. It's kind of like in the real world, one person that you hire to do this is giving you information, and you're basically just processing that. But in my case, I had three scenarios where I was like, okay, maybe part of this, it felt a little cafeteria-ish, like I'm trying to, like, what of this actually, and where were the alignments on what is everyone saying? So it took me about a week to process. And then I came away and felt like one of the fundamental questions and decisions that I made after the strategy sprint was, I decided I wasn't going to expand nationally, that I was going to take the Charlotte market. That was the decision, is we will master where we are and we will zero in and go deep instead of wide in what we do.
That's a huge strategic decision. And I did think it was really cool that the team gave you the insight that there was a lot more in Charlotte to do. I think that was part of the stretch before, was we can go national. The market feels really big nationally, but the idea of y'all focusing, that was a really cool recommendation. And I'm excited to hear that. Okay. So the Charlotte market, watch out.
Charlotte market, yeah, watch out. In that, we identified, so two things that sort of subsequently have happened since then: identifying 6 key high schools, so super tactical, to establish key relationships and pursue those in networking, and then entering into some conversations. No one suggested this, but as I thought about it, I was like, why don't we try this? Why don't I just start exploring this? Is merger, like basically finding agencies who I compete with and figuring out if we need to be the same agency so that we can actually monopolize the market. So I have a couple conversations. I don't know if they'll go anywhere, but I was like, it's not something I would have ever thought to try. So that was interesting. And then, the question of, I think a product question was driven out of what are we going to do actually? If we're staying in the Charlotte market, are we productizing differently? How are we just taking more clients to grow revenue, or are we like increasing the lifetime value of that client? So those, like you said, deciding Charlotte and then deciding like, what does that actually look like? I think was super tactical for us.
I love that. I was so marked by how network driven a lot of your business is, how high your close rate was inside your business. And I'm really excited for the future for this. So we're really just I don't know, we're thrilled for you and we can't wait. We need now a 1 year reunion for strategy sprint clients to figure
We
out what
do.
happened
We
in a
do.
year.
Two sort of things that kind of, I would say, weren't like right down the middle in terms of like the actual goal we identified, but I came away was I actually took on an intern who went through the strategy sprint who reached out to me after and said, I'd like to learn stronger presentation skills. I'd like to hone this. And he called and said, I would do pro bono work for you. And I was like, well, how can I say no to that? And and so, with the goal of taking a closer look at my role in the business and being able to think through how am I operationally, how am I operating the business and where am I missing strategic opportunities? If I could push work into my team and step back to do more strategic role. And then the other thing was I hired a social media person as a result of some recommendations. And the fun thing is she's a former student who understands tech, right? She's 20. So she gets like all the things that all of us like my age can't quite figure out. And she's just been incredible. And we've done some A/B split testing and we've watched engagement in our social media accounts grow by 300% in the last month. And then media traffic going to my website by 200% just by kind of throwing some spaghetti at the wall, but having a person and deciding, and that was one of the suggestions. Can you do a little bit of marketing? Is it paid? Is it organic? And I thought, let's try some organic and see what happens. So
Amazing.
Those were two little things kind of auxiliary that may lead somewhere or may not.
I want to let y'all know that Rachelle she's at the top of the level of commitment to execute. There are other people who definitely aren't quite as gold star as she is, but she's indicative of the kinds of people that we ask because we don't want you to do projects that are fake. This is what we're looking for, is for you to have the opportunity to transform the future of a business. And so I'm really excited just to hear it. 2 months is not a lot of time. You guys you're doing everything. Well done. Except you're not going national. You're open to it, right? But you're just, that the patterns that you're building here are the same patterns that you would need to build in other markets as well. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. I want to use the assets we have in the business right now, hone that, refine it, operationalize, and then I think we could do things at scale. That's right.
I love it. Well, the final couple of questions that I have for you are just really fun questions, just to get to know you a little bit more. And then we'll open it up in case anybody has specific questions for Rachelle. We have a few minutes allocated for that before I move back into the other material. So Rachelle, first question, what is the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Okay. So, I had something and then you know what? My grandfather, actually, I'm going to say this. I'm going to go with this. My grandfather was self-made and didn't have a college degree. He sold life insurance back before people were doing that, right? Like the first wave of life insurance. So, and I remember him telling me this story about how he would close sales. And Jenny Ray, you said that that's one of my superpowers is a close rate. And I remember my grandfather telling me stories about how he'd sit down with the family, how you had to know who decision maker was, and that the decision makers needed to be there. And I remember that. And then he said, and then I would say to them when they were kind of hovering, like, are they going to do it? Are they not going to do it? And he'd say, get your checkbook and let me show you how to use it. And that was his like line that he would deliver every time. He's like, Rachelle, you always call for the sale, no matter what's happening. Always call for the sale. So I think that has served the success of our business. I wouldn't say that's like a motivational, quote or anything like that, but it's certainly driven how I make decisions about sales. So,
come on, that's so good. Second question: what is your ideal weekend or getaway trip?
So I love hiking, and we've done a lot of that as a family. So I have 2 children and my husband, and we all love national parks. And so a week to sink into a national park where the days are we eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the trail, and we are tired and dirty at the end of the day, and staying in an Airbnb close to the park. And that is like what I love.
So fun. By the way, I asked Rachelle when she told me that initially for her guides to a couple of the parks that we haven't done yet, and I cannot wait to get in on that. It's just the right amount of national park and the right amount of wild fun. The third one, what is one word of wisdom that you'd share with your 25-year-old self?
I think this is coming from, I won't say my age, but I do have a family and I have other interests besides my business. I am deeply invested in the people I decide to invest in terms of friendship. Like I'm a loyal friend, a loyal spouse, a loyal present mom. I'm active in our community. And so business isn't the only thing I do. And so I would say to my 25-year-old self who was like type A, and I am type A, but I would say you can chase all your dreams, you can chase them all, but you can't chase them all at the same time.
Such a good word. I love that. And I think you've done a really exemplary job of doing that. You can be type A in your relationships as well. And I think that you exhibit fruitfulness in many areas of your life because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Rachelle, for coming on. I'm really grateful that you took the time to join us today and share a little bit about Strategy Sprint, your experience, your company, where you're headed. We're definitely cheering for you and can't wait to see what the future holds.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode. We hope to see you join a future Strategy Sprint project. See when the next one happens at the link in this episode's show notes and join today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.